In the gray half-light of early morning, you find yourself reaching for the familiar mask before you are even fully awake. It has become almost ritual. The persona you wear each day, polished and presentable, slides over your face with practiced ease. In the quiet of dawn, there is a fleeting moment where you sense the weight of it, the subtle tightening of the spirit as the mask settles into place. Already, a gentle sigh stirs within, a premonition of the weariness that will follow. But habit and necessity push that awareness aside. There is work to be done, roles to be played, and the world demands your performance. So you stand, armoring yourself in the persona as if it were a shield against the uncertainty of the day, stepping out to meet a society that has come to expect this very performance from you. You navigate a world ensnared by appearances and metrics, a modern survival game where identity can feel like a currency. There is a pressure to shape yourself according to the algorithms that rule contemporary life, the invisible currents of social media and professional expectation that dictate what is worthy of attention. In this digital age, even the ancient concept of persona has assumed new forms. You curate smiles and successes on a glowing screen, aware, on some level, that an algorithm might be tallying the value of your persona by the number of hearts and thumbs up it earns. Each carefully crafted post, each agreeable nod in a meeting, every "I'm fine" uttered through clenched teeth, adds another layer to the mask. At times it seems this mask has a life of its own, optimized for likes, calibrated for corporate ladder climbs, fluent in toxic positivity and the hustle culture mantra of "never let them see you sweat." It promises safety, success, belonging, yet with each passing day, a question grows louder in the silent chambers of your mind. At what cost? In Jungian psychology, the persona is understood as a necessary facade, a social mask that allows you to function amid the expectations of others. It is the face you show to the world, the role you assume so you can belong and be accepted. Without some kind of persona, everyday life would be chaos. We all wear different masks for different moments. Polite in the office, bold among friends, composed with strangers. The persona is a compromise between the individual ego and society, a complicated system of relations between the self and the world. Yet, as Carl Jung warned, the danger arises when you identify entirely with this mask, when you fuse your self-worth with the performance. Then the mask becomes a prison, the living reality of who you are, your deeper authentic self with its desires, fears, and dreams, gets smothered beneath the persona's weight. What started as a tool for survival can turn into a thief of vitality. You may not notice it at first. The change is often subtle, like a slow leak of color from a once vibrant painting. Perhaps you initially put on the mask with a clear purpose, to succeed in a demanding job, to attract a partner, to appear strong for your family. These goals are understandable, even noble at times. But slowly, imperceptibly, something shifts. The persona that was meant to serve you starts siphoning your lifeblood. One of the first warning signs emerges in the realm of energy and vitality. You wake up after a full night's rest still feeling bone-weary. There is a heaviness that coffee cannot shake off. Carrying the mask through every conversation and obligation drains your psyche's battery at an alarming rate. By afternoon, you catch yourself gazing blankly at your work or at the endless scroll of news feeds, feeling as though you are moving through water. The mental health toll of constant performance is a fatigue not just of body, but of spirit. This exhaustion is not the honest tiredness that follows meaningful effort. It is more like a chronic depletion. Imagine spending all day under bright stage lights, acting out a script that never truly resonates with your heart. The soul strain of this pretense accumulates quietly. In meetings, you nod and smile in agreement, while an inner voice whispers dissent or doubt, yet you silence it to maintain the persona of the agreeable colleague. With friends, you keep conversations light, carefully steering away from the deep or controversial, maintaining the persona of the ever-cheerful companion even if inside you feel turmoil. Over time, these small self-betrayals add up. Each instance seems minor, even prudent, but cumulatively they weigh like stones in your pockets. By the day's end, when you finally collapse onto your bed, you may wonder why you feel so empty and drained, even if nothing obviously bad happened. The mask has been working overtime, and it exacts a quiet toll from your life force. In the flicker of twilight, perhaps you catch a glimpse of your reflection as you remove the day's disguise. In the mirror, your eyes look dull. It strikes you that the lively spark you recall from youth or childhood has dimmed under the strain of endless adaptation. That spark was your true self, peeking out before being told to behave, to achieve, to fit in. Now under the weight of roles and responsibilities, that inner light flickers weakly. You have been living on the surface of yourself, attentive to every ripple in the external world's opinion, yet neglecting the deep wellspring of your own being. Burnout does not announce itself dramatically at first. It whispers, in sighs and Sunday night dread, in the quiet resentment you feel when yet another demand pulls you away from what truly matters to you, if you can even remember what that is. This is burnout of the soul, a far cry from the healthy fatigue of a day well spent. As you move through these motions, a part of you begins to sense that something fundamental is amiss. Perhaps after months of sprinting on the treadmills of productivity and self-improvement, you achieve a milestone, the promotion comes, the project is finished, or you finally acquire the status symbol you coveted. For a brief moment, you expect to feel triumphant. Your persona certainly smiles and accepts the congratulations. The metrics tick upward in approval, but in the quiet after the celebration, you confront an unsettling void. One of the warning signs that your mask is draining you is this very moment of hollowness in the face of success. The achievement that your social mask pursued so relentlessly brings you no lasting joy. You may even feel a spike of anxiety or sadness instead, as though some inner part of you is mourning a loss you can't name. The persona accomplished its goal, yet the soul feels hungrier than before. This subtle emptiness can shake you if you allow yourself to notice it. Many do not. They rush onward to the next goal, doubling down on work or distractions, hoping the emptiness is just a fluke. But it is no fluke. It is a sign that the life you are living might not be aligned with your deeper spiritual values or authentic desires. Even as outwardly everything seems fine, or more than fine, inwardly you sense you have strayed from yourself. Jung knew that individuation, the process of becoming one's true self, often begins with such troubling realizations, that the ladder you've been climbing is propped against the wrong wall, that the success story you're in could be a story about someone else entirely. In these moments, if you listen closely, you may hear the soul whisper through the cracks of the persona, "I am still here. I am not fulfilled by this." If you brush aside that whisper of discontent and push on, the unconscious has other ways to get your attention. The psyche speaks in a language of symbols and symptoms, and it will not remain silent forever. Perhaps you notice that you're growing more irritable or anxious with each passing week, like a kettle left on slow boil. Small incidents trigger outsized emotions. One day, caught in traffic or facing a minor setback at work, you find hot tears spilling down your cheeks or an anger surfacing that startles you. It is as if another person inside you has seized the reins for a moment, someone raw, honest, and tired of being gagged. This shadow self, which you have kept chained in the darkness so long to maintain your polished persona, is beginning to howl for release. Jungian psychology calls this confrontation with the repressed self the emergence of the shadow. All the parts of you that your persona pretends do not exist. The frustrations, the fears, the secret desires, the authentic reactions that have been shoved into the cellar of the unconscious. Now those hidden elements push upward, sometimes in ugly or inconvenient ways. They leak out as sarcastic comments, as moments of despair at 2 a.m., or as fantasies of escape and rebellion that you barely understand. In the still of night, you might start to have vivid dreams that linger in your morning mind, like cryptic messages. Perhaps you dream of wandering through a crowded public square, wearing a mask that suddenly cracks, leaving you exposed and vulnerable before faceless onlookers. Or you are chased by a nameless figure, an apparition of all you've tried to run from. The symbolic language of dreams, as Jung taught, reveals truths our conscious mind refuses to see in daylight. These unsettling images are not mere nonsense. They are cues for dream interpretation, pointing to an inner crisis. A mask cracking in a dream may mirror the tenuous hold your persona has on your psyche, a sign that your inner self is straining against its confines. Being chased in the dream might be the way your suppressed emotions pursue you, demanding acknowledgement. You wake with your heart pounding, perhaps dismissing it as just a nightmare. But the unease follows you through the day, a spectral reminder that something within is out of alignment. The body, too, speaks, a tightness in your chest before you don the social smile, a migraine that strikes on the morning of yet another day of pretending, or a wave of nausea as you press yourself into some role that doesn't feel right. Modern medicine might find no cause for these ailments. They are the psyche's somatic poetry, expressing what words and conscious thoughts cannot. We know now, as Jung intuited long ago, that the mind and body are entwined. Ignore the cries of one and the other will often raise its voice. Thus, a second warning sign that your mask is draining you manifests in mysterious mental and physical symptoms: anxiety with no obvious source, depression that dulls all color from life, chronic fatigue that sleep doesn't cure, or psychosomatic pains and illnesses. These signals whisper the same truth. Living in continual denial of your authentic self exacts a price from the flesh. In moments of clarity, you might notice synchronicities, a word Jung used for meaningful coincidences, that gently nudge you towards awakening. Perhaps you keep encountering articles or conversations about burnout recovery or shadow work right when you're feeling most lost. Or an old friend surfaces out of the blue and reminds you of a passion you abandoned, as if the universe were conspiring to help you reclaim a forgotten piece of your soul. Such synchronicity is the unconscious mind's clever way of guiding you, offering hints that the time has come to peel back the false layers and attend to what lies beneath. Whether you interpret these happenings as chance or as guidance, their effect is to stir a longing inside you, a longing for something real, unforced, and true. If you are part of the younger generation coming of age in this turbulent era, often labeled Gen Z, you may feel these pressures in unique ways. From childhood, many have learned to present a curated self on social platforms, fluent in the aesthetics of success and happiness, yet struggling with an unnamed angst behind the scenes. Cases of social media anxiety and identity crises in young adults highlight how quickly the mask can suffocate. Even as a teenager, one might cultivate an online persona that gains approval and envy, while privately grappling with loneliness or despair. The collective psyche of youth bears the weight of algorithmic approval, a burden Jung could only have imagined in metaphor, but one that fits neatly into his theories. The archetype of the mask has gone digital, but its consequences on the soul remain timeless. The mental health epidemic among young people, rising anxiety, depression, a pervasive sense of unmoored identity, cannot be separated from this life of performative comparison and fear of authenticity. Another warning sign appears in your relationships. This one creeps in quietly, often overlooked until it becomes painfully obvious. You might be surrounded by friends, colleagues, even a loving partner, and still feel unseen and alone. The persona, in its drive to be accepted, has kept you from revealing your true thoughts and feelings, even to those closest to you. And so there is a gap, a subtle distance between you and others that you can't bridge. Perhaps your evenings with friends are full of laughter, yet you leave the gathering with a strange emptiness, as though no one touched the real you. In love, you might play the role of the ideal partner, attentive, agreeable, never too needy, and wonder why you feel a quiet despair even as your partner praises you. The despair grows from the knowledge that they love the mask, not the soul behind it, because you have never let them see it. Jung would say that intimacy cannot flourish where a persona stands guard at the gate, allowing only a sanitized version of you to greet even those who long to know you deeply. Over time, this isolation within togetherness is devastating. You are there, and yet not there, a performer on stage even in the bedroom and at the dinner table. You might seek out relationship advice from friends or therapists, asking why you can't connect or why you feel so lonely in the company of good people. The answers circle back to the fundamental issue. No true connection can occur as long as your authentic self remains hidden. Just as a flower cannot be pollinated if it never opens, love cannot truly touch you if you remain closed behind the mask. As this realization dawns, that you have been depriving yourself of genuine human connection and authentic living, you may feel a profound despair. All the strategies that once seemed to work, the pleasing, the performing, the perfecting, now reveal their shadow side, and you are left facing a frightening question. Who am I, if not this mask? This is the moment of crisis, the breaking point that is perhaps the most dramatic warning sign. The identity crisis looms like a storm on the horizon of your soul. For some, it comes as a sudden collapse. You wake up one morning and the persona refuses to function. Perhaps an unexpected event has torn away one of your roles. You lose your job, or you suffer a burnout so severe you cannot bring yourself to get out of bed. Or a relationship ends, and with it goes the role in which you had wrapped your self-esteem. In that vacuum, panic and confusion rush in. You feel as though you are staring into an abyss, because the mask that covered your face for so long has cracked and fallen away, and you do not recognize the exposed self underneath. This identity crisis can manifest as a dark night of the soul. Depression may engulf you, not as a mere symptom to be numbed, but as a deep psychic reckoning. You wander through days that feel devoid of meaning. Activities that once occupied you now seem pointless charades. The carefully constructed story of your life has unraveled. Without the mask, you stand raw and unguarded. It is terrifying, but within that terror lies a vital truth. The life that was draining you cannot continue in the same form. The old persona must die for a more truthful self to be reborn. In mythic terms, you are now the hero who has descended into the underworld. The familiar world above is lost to you. You have entered a liminal space. Jung often noted that such periods of despair or chaos precede profound transformation, if one is willing to undergo the ordeal of individuation. In the depths of this crisis, all the unaddressed fears and traumas come roaring forth. If you have harbored a money trauma, perhaps a childhood of lack that drove you to tie your worth to wealth and work, you might now feel crippling anxiety as you question every life choice. The persona that chased financial security at all costs is revealed as a fragile construct. No amount of money or status can soothe that old wound. True healing requires turning inward to face the fear itself, not merely piling up more achievements. This is the realm of wealth psychology beyond the numbers, understanding how your psyche relates to abundance and scarcity. Stripped of the titles and trophies, you confront the reality that your spirit has felt impoverished, even in times of material plenty. The hustling persona promised to outrun the ghosts of poverty or inadequacy. But in this dark night, you see clearly that those ghosts were always within, waiting for you to acknowledge them with compassion rather than with frantic action. Likewise, if your persona was built on being indispensable in the workplace, the specter of an AI-driven job market might haunt your thoughts now. You may have lived in quiet dread that unless you worked harder and longer than any machine or any colleague, you would be left behind. Now, weakened and soul-sick, you realize no human can compete with a tireless algorithm, and more importantly, that life was never meant to be a competition of soulless efficiency. A part of you breaks under this realization, but the breaking is necessary. For in the shards of that old belief, you begin to glimpse a new understanding.
To survive and thrive as a human being is not about out-machining the machines, but about embracing the very qualities of humanity that a machine can never possess. Creativity, empathy, the wisdom born of pain, the capacity for synchronicity and spiritual insight. These are treasures of the self that no algorithm can replicate. They were there all along, but you had banished them in favor of the persona's simpler promise of predictable success. When you reach this nadir, it can feel like all is lost. And indeed, something is lost, the false certainty, the false self you clung to. But what is lost paves the way for what can be found. In the silence that follows the shattering, you may hear, for the first time in ages, the quiet voice of your own soul. It comes in wisps and fragments at first, perhaps in the form of an old yearning resurfacing, or an image from a childhood dream, or a sudden insight scribbled in your journal at 3 a.m.
This is the beginning of shadow work and healing. Shadow work simply means turning toward that which you turned away from. Now, with nothing left to lose, you gather the courage to face your reflection without the mask. You may seek the help of a therapist or a wise friend, or perhaps you sit alone in sincere dialogue with yourself. In these moments of confrontation, active imagination can be a powerful ally. You close your eyes and invite the figures of your psyche to speak. Maybe you envision meeting your shadow in a dimly lit room. You ask why it has troubled you with nightmares and anger, and in return, it shows you the pain it endured being locked away. Or you imagine a conversation with your anxious inner child, the one who first learned to wear masks to avoid punishment or to earn love, and you offer that child the understanding and comfort it was denied. Through such inner dialogues, far from the noise of social expectation, you begin to reclaim the forgotten pieces of yourself. This process of individuation, of becoming whole, does not happen overnight. It is a journey, the kind of self-improvement that no social media post can capture because it unfolds in the hidden alcoves of the heart. You start to recognize the archetypes moving within you. The inner child who seeks safety, the warrior who stands up for your boundaries, the sage who whispers wisdom in quiet moments. You realize that previously you lived a one-dimensional story, but now a richer cast of characters populates your inner life. You allow them each a voice at the table of your mind, integrating their perspectives. The introvert in you is no longer shamed for needing solitude to recharge. The extrovert in you is no longer forced to play the social butterfly at every gathering, and finds genuine joy in select moments rather than constant performance. The masculine and feminine energies within you, your anima and animus, begin to dance rather than duel, each tempering and complementing the other. You find that when you honor all these facets of yourself, a new vitality pours in. The energy that was once consumed by internal conflict and by maintaining appearances is now available for creativity, for love, and for authentic growth.
Gradually, you notice changes in your outer life as well. You might simplify your daily routine, adopting a kind of minimalism mindset not just with possessions but with commitments. Superficial engagements fall away. You prioritize relationships and activities that resonate with your soul.
You may step back from the endless digital noise and the compulsion to document and curate every moment. Perhaps you take breaks from the online world or return to it with a different intention, no longer to seek validation, but to share honestly or to connect meaningfully. You begin to rebuild your approach to work or study in a way that aligns with your true interests, even if it means making bold changes.
This is not a reckless abandonment of responsibility, but a conscious reorientation toward what feels purposeful. In doing so, you find that flow state returns to your endeavors, those precious moments when time disappears because you are so fully present and engaged. Such flow was nearly impossible when you were divided against yourself. Now, by aligning your outer life with your inner values, you invite it back in. It is at this stage that genuine positivity arises, not the forced grin of toxic positivity, but a natural, uncontrived optimism that comes from well-being. You smile now not because you must, but because joy finds you in the small things. In a deep conversation where you finally speak your truth, or in a quiet evening spent doing something you love simply for its own sake, without any need to perform or prove. You realize that the opposite of the draining mask is not a particular new identity or perfect lifestyle, but the freedom to be fluid and real. Sometimes you're strong, sometimes vulnerable, sometimes confident, sometimes afraid, but all these states belong to you and flow through you without sticking as permanent personas. You are alive in the present, no longer lugging the dead weight of a constant facade. In this freedom, you discover that the energy once consumed by fear and pretense has become the fire of renewal. The mask lies discarded, and in its place stands a life lived from the center of your being, whole, conscious, and profoundly alive.